Literally caught between a rock and a hard place, he had only one chance to make it. At number 3 on the list of amazing survival stories, one man does the unimaginable.
I think any other human being would have died in that situation.
In April 2003, 27-year-old Aaron Ralston went for a hike by himself. He was alone in the picturesque Utah desert.
He made one big mistake, which is he forgot to tell anyone where he was going. And that's the ultimate no-no if you're traveling alone.
Ralston found that out the hard way. While maneuvering through a deep crevasse, an 800-pound boulder rolled from its resting place and caught Aaron's right hand.
Wham, the boulder pins his right arm against the wall.
Crushed his arm at the wrist, and he was stuck there.
Racked with pain, Aaron tried everything he could to free his hand from under the heavy rock. Nothing worked.
He had a little multi-tool. It's a very cheap thing with a few blades on it, and he was chipping away at the boulder, but after he worked at that for about 10 hours straight and wasn't able to get anything more than a handful of dust.
He was in an incredibly dire situation. Even if that injury didn't kill him, he'd run out of water. Eventually, when you run out of water, you die of heart failure.
Aaron hoped that another hiker might come along and find him. He tried calling out for help.
Not only was he in a remote area, he happened to be below the surface of the ground, where no one is going to see him, and his ability to yell, the sound is trapped in that little canyon he's in.
After 3 days stuck in the canyon, Aaron began to suffer from sleep deprivation and lack of water.
You really, in essence, go crazy from dehydration.
Tremendously stressful situation. Incredible pressure not being able to get out from under that boulder. And with each passing moment, he knew that the stakes were higher and his chances of survival were less.
Aaron carved his own epitaph into the boulder that held him captive.
He took the knife and he carved in the wall of the canyon, ARON, October 75, April 03, RIP.
By day 6, time was running out. If Ralston wanted to live, something truly drastic had to be done. The hiker decided the only way to free himself was to amputate his own arm.
He's a very, very smart guy. Engineer by training, super duper smart, problem solving. Aaron was incredibly analytical about his problem.
Ralston knew the dull blades in his multi-use tool wouldn't be strong enough to cut through his bones.
He had a moment of inspiration and figured out that he could break his arm, snap the bones, and then use his multi-tool to cut the flesh, the tendons, ultimately the nerve, to free himself. He had to use the rock as a lever, bend his body against it. Eventually, he said he heard a pop like a cap gun that echoed down the canyon.
Ralston first made a tourniquet using some of his climbing gear. Next, with the small blade of the pocket knife, Aaron slowly cut through the skin and muscle surrounding the break.
He had to use the pliers to actually pull out the tendons. He couldn't cut through the tendons. They were too tough.
It's probably one of the most painful things you could experience.
He's also described that pain as liberating. He said he was euphoric at that moment because he realized he was finally free.
The euphoria Ralston felt was quickly overpowered by the realization that he wasn't out of the woods yet.
He had to hike 8 miles out. He had a 60-foot rappel that he'd have to do with one arm.
The average person in that situation just wouldn't have the capacity to function at all. It takes a special type of guy to get through a situation like that.
Somehow, Aaron managed to make it almost all the way to civilization. A rescue helicopter spotted Ralston and airlifted him to a hospital in Colorado. Aaron had lost 40 pounds and nearly 25% of his blood.
Aaron's viewed as a badass in the outdoor community. We all dread those situations, and he faced it, and he got through it.
Ralston later claimed that the experience was the greatest blessing of his life.
To have been part of a miracle is something that I wouldn't give back, to have my hand again.
If you are trapped in the desert without water, you don't want to drink your own urine. Your urine is already really concentrated, it's full of salt, and just drinking that is gonna quench your thirst, perhaps, for the moment, but it's only gonna make the situation worse.
Up next, tragedy at the top of the world.
His conditions were so bad that they thought that he was already dead.